This is Dan Rogers, your host on We the People Town Square, coming to you from the center of the universe, the high plains of Texas, near the headwaters of the Prairie Dog Town fork of the Red River. Today is January the 20th of 2024, and we're here with Ryan Zink, who's running for Congress in CD19, which is south of Amarillo, Lubbock area. Takes in a pretty good-sized district. Ryan, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today. I appreciate it.
So they call you the J6 kid.
Yeah, I guess so. That seems to be the name that's floating around in Texas. So,
well, I just heard that you're in second place already.
That's unconfirmed, but whenever it's not me that's running the numbers, but I have somebody who's running numbers telling me that, it's hard to believe, but glad to hear that I'm tracking at least somewhere. So.
Well, that's great. So you're trying to run against an incumbent that's been there a long time. 6
years.
Why do you want to run against Arrington?
Well, I think that it's time for, just for new management. Arrington wouldn't help me, first of all, with all of my J6 stuff. It was just a flat out refusal, other than like, here's an email for somebody that we've already been in contact with. He's unwilling to make a statement and speak up for, the 1,400 something people that have had their constitutional rights violated and are, completely being overrun by corrupt DOJ and the Biden administration. And another thing too is that, he's been on the term limits committee with Beto O'Rourke is one of the people that's, famously on this committee, and he's done nothing with it. There's a term limit aspect that most of the voters in my area would like to see, because they think that it's wrong for somebody who has been around since before JFK was assassinated to still be trying to make policy in our country. And like you and I have discussed on different occasions about, the vote is supposed to be the term limit of what's going on. But now, we just have all of these people that have made a career out of this. And I don't believe that a politician gets more experience the longer they're in. I just think they get more power and they start to become more corrupt.
Yeah, I have a little bit of opinion on that. To me, the way the system's set up is what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have all this big money coming into different areas through PACs, super PACs, which allow corporate money. We even think overseas money's coming through to manipulate all of our elections. And so the average person doesn't have a chance to compete with that. And to me, what you should do is just, if you cannot vote for a candidate, you should not be able to contribute. You shouldn't have any PACs. They should not exist, nor should any corporate money. Businesses should not be able to contribute, because businesses can't vote. PACs can't vote. Only individuals in your district can vote. And I think that should be for any district. I don't care if it's a county commissioner, a JP, Congress, House, Senate, or president.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't live in a district, you can't participate nor contribute, and all that problem goes away.
Sure.
And,
absolutely.
I think that would level the playing field and get it back to the way our founders envisioned.
And we got to strip away the right. So every congressional member right now that's an incumbent there's money that's set aside by the Congress, like paying money for them, where they're allowed to send out mailers or whatever they want to. That it's an unfair advantage for the person that's running against them, because the system is wholly designed and dedicated to making it to where the incumbent has the advantage, and we need to strip that down and let the playing field ride. And no more of this rolling money over either, from campaign to campaign. I say at the end of the campaign, whether you win, lose, whatever, all of that funding gets sent to a check that's split evenly amongst all the schools in the school district, and let's put our education back at the forum that is the most important, instead of who lost or who won or whatever, because, they talk about doing this for schools all the time, but they never seem to get the funding. for it. And now vouchers and all the other things that are coming up here. It doesn't make any sense why you would send the money with the kid that can be taken away from a poor school district. Not everybody can just jump up and leave. So I think that would be a way to kind of offset that playing field to where we wouldn't have to talk about vouchers anymore.
That's an interesting idea.
So I have one every now and then.
Well, what are some of your other ideas on what you want to do when you get elected?
Well, one of the biggest things that, like we've been talking about, is term limits. I think 8 years is plenty. We all know that it's not congressmen that are writing these bills that come up. They're so busy. Like look at all these omnibus bills and everything else that are just sitting in drawers right now. 2,000-3,000 pages. You think a congressman has time to do these? No, they don't. So this is the first thing that I'd like to instill after term limits: single itemized bill voting. Less than 30 pages, and it has to be read. A congressman has to go in and say, I read this document in order to be able to vote for it. And everybody says, well, that's going to take too much time. We don't have the time to do that. Good. I'm sorry. This is your job. Like, if you're going to D.C., this is your job. You don't see a farmer saying, man, I really can't get out there and get those rows on the north pasture today because of this, this, and this. No, they have to get it in. So should a congressman.
Yeah, I think what people don't realize, our whole country's being run by 20-year-old staffers.
Yeah.
And that's how a lot of this bad legislation gets pushed through.
Yeah.
Because nobody reads the bills. Maybe we need fewer bills.
I think that we do the itemized voting, there's going to be fewer bills, because unless you're stubborn, somebody like me that is literally watching your rights walk right out the door, who's willing to stand in this gap and fight for it, whenever you see that there's going to be 375 different bills on the docket, maybe you might not want to be a congressman anymore. I think that it's time that, to do this for another reason, because look at the accountability factor of a single itemized voting. What does every politician say about what happens whenever they're like, well, I had to pass this bill because it was the least of all evils? Well, now you don't have that choice anymore. It's either, am I going to send money to Ukraine or am I not? Am I going to vote for abortion or am I not? There's going to be no more of these little clauses that they can just throw in there, what I like to call the Pelosi side effect of these bills, where they'll say, yes, we'd like to send all of this money to education and give our troops a raise, but at the same time, there'll be a subclause that they're trying to get in there that doesn't have anything to do with the topic that they're talking about, and it'll be like, but we require them all to be vaccinated or they don't get their funding or they're raised.
Right.
That will eliminate all that.
Some pork in some congressman's district.
Just get rid of the pork, get rid of everything. You know exactly what your politician is voting for and whether or not they are representing what you have asked them to do in your area. Increases accountability. No staffing, no lobbying afterwards. This is a public service. You were never supposed to be in this for a lifetime. You were supposed to go, do your duty, and be finished. And then now, if you work in Congress for 5 years, you reap all the benefits and everything else for as long as you're alive. And you're making $174,000 a year for however long you're in Congress. No more of that.
Well, now they're talking about giving themselves a raise.
But that's the thing. They have the power to give themselves a raise. How many Americans have the power to give themselves a raise? What do I just get to do? I'm supposed to be starting a new job on Wednesday of this week. Do I just get to go up to my new boss and be like, hey, man, that initial salary that we discussed? I don't think so, brother. I vote that I'm going to have to get it higher. And he's just like, oh, okay. Yeah, I agree with that too. We don't get to battle inflation.
No.
We don't get to do any of that,
no,
which leads me into my next bill that I want to put up, and that's to close the border. Because this border invasion that we have is driving inflation up through the roof, because look at all of the money that the government has to spend and that taxpayers lose, because we have all these people that are pushing straight into our country illegally. We have a system that can get them here. I'm not saying that we should permanently close the border and shut our doors, but we very, very much have a legal, right, correct way to come to this country to where you can come here and be beneficial. I've also talked to about 40 people that have come to this country legally And it is a huge problem for them that there are so many people that have just waltzed right into our country. And, there's all of the speculation about how, they're going to be pushing for voter rolls and trying to redistrict people based upon, this. We've got like New York and New Mexico and California that are trying to utilize this from a voter standpoint. They're not American citizens. They don't represent our vote. And they can't have one. They can't have a vote until they do it the right way and become citizens the way that we have set things up.
Yeah, they're violating federal law. They're
absolutely.
State law.
Absolutely.
Local law.
And, and not enough is being done about this because our men and women that are with Border Patrol, that are with, we even have the Texas National Guard that's down at the border right now. They are stripped of their power to do something because they are afraid of either cancel culture or they don't have the leadership that says, send them back over. I do agree with the fact that I think New York's getting a taste of their own medicine from Abbott, from the amount of people that are being sent up there. But here's my thing. If we're going to go ahead and spend the money, let's go ahead and send them back where they came from. Yeah. Let's enforce the border policy that's here. Texas, Louisiana, we have all of these different National Guard troops that have showed up at the border to help us, and that's wonderful. Those men and women deserve every single thing that we can give them, including more money, more securities, because there should be a 50-50-50 rule down at the border. Every 50 yards, there's a 50 cal machine gun 50 foot in the air. That'll stop all this stuff coming through here because we don't know who these people are, and that's why I think that it's perfect for us to move into, a time where all Americans get together and we go down and we look and see what's at the border.
What I don't understand is, and I think the voters don't understand, we have heard about this border issue for years. Trump was actually solving the problem. But we have all these resources pointed toward that problem. Mm-hmm. But they're still coming over. You've got the National Guard, the DPS, the Border Patrol. How can all these people keep coming through? Why are we so ineffective?
All right. I'm going to get a good scratch in before I answer that one, so we'll have to cut this out. My goodness. Okay. I think that the reason that everything has become the way that it is because we now have different organizations that are working against the states. And I think that it comes from the federal level because we have had no help from the Biden administration. None. It is literally says the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a Republican form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion and the application of the legislator or of the executive when the legislature cannot be convened against domestic violence. That's Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution. And the Biden administration has failed to do so. Alejandro Mayorkas has failed to do so. We have journalists on the ground that are reporting that the Red Cross is flying people in to these countries, and they are telling them which routes to go to. We have reporters on the ground in San Antonio, like Hernando, that are going out and they're finding out the truth. They're listening to these people, and they're asking them where they're from. They're being given $5,000 gift cards so that they can come here, free cell phones. They're working against the states, and they have a sworn duty to protect the states. Alejandro Mayorkas should be impeached immediately from his positions, if not prosecuted for crimes that he's committing.
Yeah, that's aiding and abetting the enemy.
It is, which we call another word in this country, treason.
Yeah.
And that is, one of the biggest things that's here is that we do not have a checks and balances system in place for these unelected bureaucrats that get into these three-letter agencies and they want to tear this country apart to prove an agenda. There's not even facts that come along with this. They're saying, we don't have an immigration problem. We have a massive immigration problem. We have hand, foot, and mouth disease, RSV, amongst other diseases. We have leprosy that's rising in the state of Texas. These things have ultimately been eradicated until this problem of an estimated 8.5 confirmed. That's just what we know of. It could be as high as 20 million.
We can't move cattle from one state to another without papers, right?
Right.
But yet they're letting all these people just march into our country from all over the world, and who knows who they are and who knows what diseases they might have. To me, that's just suicide.
Yeah, and not to mention,
they're not protecting their people. They're not doing their job.
Yep. And it's not just that. It's the weapons that are coming across that we're finding too. IEDs, rocket launchers, the amount of fentanyl that's getting through here. You know, I live in Lubbock. I live 2 hours away from here. We've had multiple fentanyl deaths this month. Yep. It's January of 2024, and we already have fentanyl deaths. You know, it's this is a huge issue. And that's why I wanted to also talk about an event that's happening that's going through all of 2024, where we are taking our border back. And the main event is on February 3rd, 2024. I've been working with a couple of groups trying to get this going. And it's going to be in California, Arizona, and Texas. We are going to be, I'm kind of looking through the website here to make sure that I relay the most accurate and correct information about it. But we're uniting to take the border back. You know, we have an immense problem in this country to where there's not enough attention that's being given. And so we just decided, well, let's invite everybody down.
What's the name of this?
You can go to takeourborderback.com, and it's the Take Our Border Back Convoy. And so basically what we're going to be trying to do is we're going to be trying to line up vehicles from coast to coast. We're talking Florida to California, all the way across. We estimate that it should take about 700,000 vehicles to run the coast. And we want to do this over a couple of day periods, starting from January 29th all the way up to February 3rd is about when the event is going to be there. There's a couple of press releases that have come out on this since January 12th, but it's basically just a coalition of concerned Americans from across the nation that have announced the formation of the Southern Border Convoy. You know, this is pretty similar to what happened in Canada with the truckers that were going on up there that showed Captain Beta Male Justin Trudeau exactly what they think about his policies. And I think it's time that we show the same thing to Alejandro Mayorkas and Joe Biden, because we're not protected. We're trying to span this convoy from Virginia Beach, Virginia, all the way to Eagle Pass on February 3rd. The convoy will branch off on February 1st in Texas and continue down to Arizona for the rally on February 3rd. Concurrently, a California rally will take place sometime on February 3rd, and then the convoy the same day from San Ysidro all the way to join up with the Arizona rally, culminating in across all three of the states. You know, I think that this is a great way to show First Amendment, patriotic, peaceful protesting, just like January 6th was, where we have to go in and set the goal is simple. It's just to shed light on it. There's no violence. There's no anything. It's the simple request that our constitutional rights would be upheld. The government is responsible to protect us from invasion, and we are being invaded. And this is to ultimately slow and stop all of the adverse effects that come with the border being wide open, which is drug trafficking, human trafficking, all of the things that the worst aspects of what we see where the cartels are pushing people through. If you don't, like, I've seen several people deny openly that are on the left, that, you know, across the other side of the aisle, that we don't have a sex trafficking problem and we don't have a border problem. Well, then why are we finding children with multiple sets of DNAs that are coming to our hospital? How come there are immigrants, 300, I believe it's up to 350,000 different incidences where our VA hospitals are treating immigrants? That is set aside and reserved for the ultimate sacrifice that has been given, which is service to your country, where you literally have the chance to go and die to make sure that we stay free. And yet, immigration and this open invasion is even turning to where our soldiers' hospitals are rejecting soldiers who have issues that they need seen back. And that, to me, that's just not acceptable. That is completely unacceptable. Our fighting men and women who have been through so many different things do not deserve to be pushed away from somebody who is not an American, somebody that has no legal right to be here and is contributing overall to making America worse through inflation and everything else. But this event...
Yeah, they're going to destroy our whole welfare system and everything else. They're going to overload the social programs, which will create huge problems.
Yeah, and I mean, it's already creating huge problems. Like, it's already here. Inflation was already at an all-time high thanks to the wonderful Bidenomics that we have. But
Well, they're giving money to things that don't produce, and they're spending money, your money. People don't understand. The government can't print money. They have to borrow it, which means we as citizens are going to have to pay it back.
Yeah.
And when that money floats in, then because it's non-productive money produced by, it wasn't that somebody went down to the bank to borrow money to create a business or to expand their business and hire people, and that doesn't create inflation.
Yeah.
But when government spends money, that's inflationary.
And it's high. It's like, I think the math from last week was every single American owes $261,000. So like, I have friends that just had a baby and their child owes $261,000. They're not even a full year old yet.
Yeah.
You know, that's insane to me. And yet we're going to send billions and billions of dollars to other countries. You know, Ukraine is setting up a border. Why can't we set up ours? You know,
it's illogical. It's, I think they have an agenda there with Ukraine, but that's a whole different
I think subject. It's Agenda 2030. I think it ties hand in hand with what the World Economic Forum and the rest of these people are trying to put forward for America. But that's why America has to be first. The things that we do, Americans, is the most important. It's not that we shouldn't help other countries. It's not that.
But you can't help other countries unless you can take care of your own stuff first.
That's right. That's right. Until we get our stuff
just like
situated.
A household, you know.
Yes.
You have to take care of your family and your home first, then you can help others.
If the mortgage is paid, if the chickens are fed, right. if the grass is watered,
the cows are
then
milked.
You can go out and then you can help your neighbor mow or you can do whatever. But you got to take care of everything else first. It's just like, how are you supposed to help somebody do something that you need to do whenever you're in debt? You know, if our country, the greatest country in the world, is in debt and we don't have any money because we've been completely bled dry, how are we supposed to help somebody that actually needs it, like we have seen in the past with natural disasters and everything else? But I mean, I digress from this situation. There is a donation link that goes on from for this event that if you want to be there, you can. There'll be more information. That's takeourborderback.com. And it's givesendgo.com/takeourborderback to where you can donate to the coordinators, because they're trying to make sure that, you know, Americans understand that we have 160 countries worldwide that are pouring in through our southern border, and we have no idea who they are or where they're going.
Well, I don't think most Americans, they don't have a problem with people immigrating here legally. We want people that want to come legally. All the people that want to come legally and they want to become Americans.
Yes.
Right? And assimilate into our society.
Yeah.
We want those people.
Yes.
That want the American dream, or what used to be the American dream.
What is rapidly fading away from the American
those people we want, but the people that are not following the rules, that are coming here illegally, to me it makes no sense to allow them in. I don't understand how that I can't get my mind around it. I can't get my mind around a lot of things that they're doing.
Yeah. It's I mean it's just
like it's a coordinated effort to destroy the country.
I've seriously I think that's what it is. I completely agree with you. I think that there's long been a coordinated effort ever since Trump left office to divide Americans from each other, because we are much stronger together than we ever will be apart. And so we have to stand up right now in order to make this country great again and to get things back.
The people have to stand up.
Absolutely.
So that's what this convoy. The people, individuals, have to stand up and do what's right and take back their country, because the politicians aren't going to do it.
Yeah, and cameras don't lie. So if they see that there's like 12 million people at the border between January 29th and February 3rd, it's going to turn some heads. Like, you know, even fake news organizations like MSN, CNN, NBC, all those guys, they're not going to be able to deny the footage that's coming across from it.
Government, I call it the government-controlled media.
Oh, yeah, like NPR. All that needs to be disbanded. Yeah. Government-controlled media is absolutely out of whack these days, and it's just like even some of the stuff that you see in the paper about me. Like whenever they talk about, it says that I like forced my way into the Capitol, assaulted police officers. That never happened. You know, they make it up. It's a joke at this point. I mean, it's literally like have they learned nothing from Nuremberg or anywhere else? Is that it doesn't matter what your affiliation was. If you're working towards something that is a lie, eventually you're going to get caught, and there's going to be consequences for that. And I think that that's where America's at, is we're finished. I think we're finished with people who say they're going to do something and then they don't. And that's why I decided to run, is because I can guarantee that we're going to have some talks and we're going to expose some stuff if I get to Congress, because I am fed up. I'm tired of it. My entire life was ruined, but by the grace of God, he has rebuilt me day by day and hour by hour. And it's time. It's time to make a change in America. And I think most people are for it. I don't find a single person on Democrat, Republican, Independent, purple, green-haired, one-eyed monster voters that are out there that are like, no, our government's perfectly fine. We don't need to make any changes at all. It's always.
I think the problem, part of it is, people, the older people, your dad's generation, my generation, they cannot get their mind around the fact that the government could be their enemy.
Oh, absolutely.
They trusted government, right? They expect them to do what they say because they're honest, right? The voter, he's honest. He's working hard. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing, and he expects everybody else to be like him. But our government bureaucracy, I think, has gotten so big that it's being manipulated, and in fact, our federal government may be our enemy now. Because they're coming after the individual.
Yes, they are. Like, look at this week.
They're violating the Constitution. They don't think it matters. And the courts are going along with them and not taking the cases because they've been
corrupted.
Compromised.
Yep.
So I guess the question is, how do we solve the problem?
I think that the biggest thing that we can do right this second to solve the problem with what's going on is to set up these term limits and to turn over this current government that we have. Because if we go in and we set legislation that says you cannot serve longer than 8 years, whether you are a congressman or staffer, it's going to create some problems. Anyone who is like, no, that's unacceptable, can't do this, they're probably benefiting in some way or another from being there, which is not the reason why you run. It's a public service. Citizen legislature, absolutely. In this constitutional republic that we have, whenever you look at the people who are fighting to stay somewhere, there was probably a illogical or illegal reason that they are fighting so hard to stay there. So one of the things that we see most commonly with these positions of congressmen and senators and everything else is that they seem to generate money from all kinds of places. And one of those is particularly the stock market. And that's why I think that we should put in legislation that says that you're not allowed to have any type of trading, you or your immediate family, unless there are special circumstances like, this is a made-up name, Senator Bob Hansley. His brother has been a well-known stock trader for 20 years. Okay, great. Everything that y'all talk about when regards to finance has to be under record. Something. There has to be a system that we can put forward.
What I suggested was to one of our congressmen, and they laughed it off, but I'm like, there should be a congressional stock index. So any investments any congressman make should be made public.
Yes.
You could create an ETF of what they buy, and then everybody should have the opportunity to buy what they're buying.
Absolutely. And then if you get caught insider trading, I think that it should be a hammer that is slammed over the top of your head. 7-figure fines, imprisonment.
Yep.
Let's make it real. $200 fine. What is that? What we're up to yet? I think the highest one that I've heard of is a special circumstance, and it's $2,800. Okay. Even if, so let's put this into bigger, broader terms. Let's say that, people are like, well, you can't do that. You got to make it off of a percentage. Okay, let's run a percentage. Let's say that you get hit with 5%. Let's say that 5% of your total transaction was $80 million. Ooh. Well, if you make $100 million out of it, you've still made $20 million.
Well, to me, it ought to be 10. Whatever the crime was, they should have to pay it back times 10.
Yeah.
Simple.
And I'm all for it.
And
because,
if they can't pay it back, then maybe they go to hard labor.
And it's crazy. I think the prison time should come with it anyways. If there's proof of that, then lock them up. Because one, They utilize their power of position as an elected official who's supposed to be benefiting and working for the American people for personal gain. That's 1, illegal, 2, unethical, and 3, immoral. So whenever you look at your position and you look at like what these people are supposed to be doing, does what I think matter in the long run as an elected official if I get into office? Yes, it does. It does. I think that the character of a man and the way that he lives his life and the way that he has runs his family, I think all of those things matter 100%. But what matters more is the voice of the voter.
Yep.
That is what you are there for. If people want to say in your county, so there's a big issue in Andrews County that's going on right now, where a bunch of the homeowners in the area no longer want oil-filled nuclear waste at their dump. But it's been there for years. And I started paying attention to this issue, and I've been listening to homeowners. I've listened to oil field workers. I've listened to a few of the people that are elected officials there about what's happening. And it does appear to me that there was a want for change. And despite the fact that it's been happening for years and years, some people in the community don't want it. And for that, some of those people are being badgered and belittled by those that are in power there. That's not okay. These people have the right to speak up. If they don't want it there, that's fine, but you don't get to belittle them for their point of view. You don't get to come after them and say, well, you're stupid because this has been here for 80 years, long before you were ever around. It doesn't matter. They're the voter. If that county wants to come forward and say no more, it doesn't matter what those elected officials think or how much money it makes for the county or whatever. It's the vote. It's the voter. It's their opinion that matters. And if we have to get people to step aside who have forgotten that or don't realize that, then we need to.
We have a republic, which means we elect people to represent us, not rule us.
Right. And all they've been doing lately is ruling.
Yeah.
And it just, America, where we're at right now, I think the Founding Fathers would be ashamed of us. Yeah. I think they would.
Well, we're basically we are a socialist country now. We're not. We veered into socialism a long time ago, and
yeah,
really, right on the cusp of being full blown fascist.
Yeah,
which is where the big corporations run the government. That's all fascism is. Mm-hmm. Which is what Germany became. It became socialist, which
right after the Reichstag fire, a very similar event to January 6th.
Exactly, and it was an inside job.
Yes, it was. And so, I encourage people to look up the Reichstag fire if you want to know where we're at in history, because the Reichstag fire did 3 things. It removed the right to free speech and peaceful assembly and all the other stuff. It created an enemy whenever you look back from the Bolsheviks. January 6th was the Reichstag fire. Yeah. And, as more and more stuff begins to get uncovered about January 6th, you're going to see just how much your government hates you. This week, we see that the FBI was working with Cabela's and Bass Pro Shops and JP Morgan Chase and a bunch of these other big companies that are out here, where it's now you're considered to be a domestic violent extremist if you purchased a Bible, or if you bought something that said Trump or MAGA or a few of these other keywords that are there. You're an extremist for purchasing a Bible. That is how much your government hates you right now, that they would authorize the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the FBI, to go in and work in private enterprise. This is without a warrant. This is just at a suggestion. These companies cooperated with no warrant, with only a FISA implication, and the government basically saying, hey, we would like for you to go in and look at this. They had no probable cause. They had no warrants. They had nothing signed by a judge, nothing. And your government allowed them to go in and access that information, take it out of your private accounts. How many people in Lubbock, Amarillo, Canyon, Happy, Abilene, Anson, how many of these different people have bought a Bible? How many of these people were on or near Washington in 2021? It didn't even matter if it was there. You didn't even have to be anywhere around January 6th. If you bought a Bible sometime in the last 3 years, or if you bought a Trump hat, or if you're, donated to a MAGA march, or if you donated to, even your Republican GOP, how long is it until the government says, well, you can't be a Republican anymore because they're idealists or an extremist? This is where we're headed. The First Amendment, as we stand right now, even in particular to my court case, the First Amendment is dead, and we're fighting for the right to speak as Americans.
What we're trying to do now is to reclaim our republic because it's gone.
Right.
But what I think the most important issue out there, and it just amazes me how hard people are fighting against a simple thing that would solve, I think, a lot of problems. And that's simply getting back to hand-marked, self-authenticated, tangible ballots that can be verified.
Yes.
Because
one day
the people have lost confidence in the system.
Yes.
And they're not voting.
Yeah.
They think it's rigged. To me, I don't know for sure if it is or it isn't, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that we get rid of that system that people think is bad.
Yes.
So let's just go to a simple system so people can start having confidence in their elected officials, and then they'll get confidence back in their government. And I think that simple step that would save every county in the nation millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands per county, and in many counties, millions, by doing that simple thing, which saves the individual taxpayer money and gives them confidence. Why are they fighting something like that so hard? That's the question.
Because whenever you see outcomes like just look at Maricopa County, look at the MCRC, look what they were able to accomplish, 2 weeks ago, to where they had over 2,000 ballots counted in like just over an hour, and it was 100%, and there was 100% total transparency. The grassroots movement overtook the MCRC, and there's nobody fighting the results. There's nobody, because whenever you go in and you have
look at Iowa, look at the Iowa caucuses.
Look at the Iowa caucus. That's another great example.
Paper system in their primary, no questions.
Nope.
One county.
Yep.
Trump lost by one vote. No questions.
Yeah.
Transparency. Malay in Argentina. Now they counted those by hand, which I'm against hand count because of we don't need to do that when we have
the technology.
We can scan them and then verify. But that was just a 2-person race, but they counted 23 million votes in less than 24 hours.
Well, and we can do it.
And we have the system in place. It's simple. We had a perfect system for many, many years, and then they went to these machines, and now nobody has confidence. So why don't we just get rid of the damn things?
Yeah, get rid of the machines. And seeing it's so much easier because they say, like, well, where are we going to get the manpower from? Okay.
You don't need any more manpower than you do now.
Here's the great thing about it is that we can make voting day a national holiday where everybody's off work. If you're eligible to vote, you're registered, you're correctly enrolled and an American citizen with proper voter ID, you can have the day off work. You can get up, go to your local voting station, show your ID, get your paper ballot, cast your vote, and go home. And you can volunteer if you choose to do so.
You need 2 people minimum per precinct. That's all you need. We like 3. When I did it, we had 3. It's so easy I have no problem coming up with the help. I mean, you've got your precinct chairs. There's one, and that's easy to get the help. That's when we had paper. It was a community event. Both parties show up. They work together, and everybody's having a good time. And you get to know your people in your precinct. And after you do that, a couple of elections, everybody knows each other, and you work together, and you kind of become friends. So. To me, that's the way it ought to be.
Yeah.
But doing this countywide voting thing has created an absolute nightmare. And nobody knows who voted. They won't let you even have a manual roster. So there's no way to double check anything. And they won't even let you count the paper that they now with this smoke and mirrors system of scanning and printing a receipt. They won't let you count the paper in the box to verify.
There's no transparency.
No, and there's no ballot. My big problem with electronic voting is
ballot.
Is no source document.
You can't check
There has been no elections in 15 years in America.
Yep.
They're selections, not elections.
Selection code. That's a great movie to see.
Yeah, we show up, we push buttons, and and go home, and then eventually, which is why it takes so long now, is mind-numbing. When on paper, we used to have it in a couple of hours, but now it takes all this time. But the computer tells us who won, and there's no way to verify it. None.
Yeah. Well, see, and that's another reason why my father, who's running for Congress in Arizona, worked on 23 different audits, because we've all come to the same conclusion. Something's not right. It's happened. And there have been elections that have been stolen away from people. And it doesn't matter what level it's at, from the president all the way down to a GOP chair or a county precinct chair.
The other problem that I see with electronic, well, number one, Obama made it part of critical infrastructure so nobody can access them. Why did they do that? And the other thing is the burden of proof to prove anything is on the candidate.
Right.
It should be on the state or the county to prove that system is 100% accurate. And there is absolutely no way they can do it. Because you can't access them.
Yep.
So there's no way to prove if somebody, let's say you saw buses coming in with people from a different state with IDs of people on the voter rolls, and you thought there might be fraud, how do you prove the fraud?
Yeah.
There's no way to prove it electronic.
Yep.
So why any American with an IQ over 80 would think that electronic voting makes any sense is beyond me.
I'm to the point to where I think that anybody that's going for it right now, without the transparency, like you said, with the burden of proof and everything else, if these algorithms, if all of this was made public to where people could inspect them, they could look at them, we know for sure that majority of these machines can access the internet. Oh, I mean, like you go and you look at
the electronic poll book it's running through a third-party server that nobody even knows who it is.
Nobody knows who it is. Nobody knows where it comes from.
That means they know exactly how you vote.
And, and predictability, too. Whenever you can openly access voter rolls like we can, you and I both, we can see who's a registered voter in our county. That gives you the numbers that you need to say, okay, if everyone in this county came to vote, this is how much I need to tweak this algorithm to offset this to where it comes back.
Well, they say that's why they want early voting, because they can see who voted, and because they know who voted, they know how they vote. Mm-hmm. I believe if with electronic poll books, I think there's a way they could actually see who you voted for.
I think so too. And
so then they can create their logarithm, and on election day, that's why why it could be that it takes so long to get your results. But we know, and like 100% of 72-year-old males voted in a county just south of Potter. 100% of them voted. How does that happen?
That's just like the counties that, they have a percentage and 115% of the vote happened.
We had 17 counties in Texas that had more people vote in 2020 than they had registered voters.
Yeah.
Now, how can that happen?
I don't know.
So, but with the paper, you don't have any of these problems, and people have confidence in it. So, I'm dealing with all these people. They're all wanting to prove, we think there's fraud. I'm like,
you see,
you're wasting your time. Let's focus on getting rid of the machine.
I heard a great idea from this guy that I was talking to. He was from Palmer County, one of the districts that I have, and he said, it'd be a lot easier if you go in and you get your ballot and they've just got a scanner that's right there that scans the copy of your driver's license right over the top of it and prints it right on the deal. That way you not only know what type of document was presented for the voter, but that way you can identify which ballot was yours completely.
Well, then it wouldn't be a secret ballot.
That's true. But when it comes to accountability and we're looking at the way things go, it could be an idea. I do agree that we do need to have the secrecy that's involved with it.
The way we did it before was perfect. You could not cheat, but you show the judge your driver's license. They make sure you're you. It's got your address on it. Looks like you. And then you signed a manual poll book by your name with your signature. You picked up a ballot.
Mm-hmm.
You sat down at a table like this and you filled it out. And then you walked by both judges and you dropped it in the box. They watched you do it all. Done.
Yeah.
Then at 7:00, we put a piece of tape. We sealed the box. We counted our provisional ballots, the number that we had left, the total ballots, subtracted those. That's how many's in the box.
Yep.
It's pretty simple. And then we counted the numbers of signatures on the poll book and make sure they match, which they always did. Okay, we got 873 ballots in the box. We have 873 signatures.
Mm-hmm.
We took it down to central count. We stood in line. We sat there and watched while they unsealed the box, unlocked it, took them out, put them in order.
With a chain of custody.
Because we're all watching, and they ran it through the scanner. It printed the results, just like a test.
Mm-hmm.
It's grading the test. Both judges signed off. They put that piece of paper on top. We made a copy for the county clerk to report. Done. Wrapped them. And then we had 21 days, which we are still required to do this, to go in as election officials. We had to do it. We had to check. So we'd have to pull a precinct, manually count, and then check the scanner. And make sure that scanner was correct, right? That's called canvassing the vote. We cannot canvass the vote today.
Nope.
So I believe these machines just violate Texas code right there.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm after is getting one sentence in the code to eliminate all this, which is a ballot shall be a hand-marked. They should define a ballot in the election code as a hand-marked, self-authenticated, tangible document that can be verified, period. That solves all problems.
Yeah.
It gets rid of these mail-ins, too.
Because it's physical.
Absentees. They're
physical,
wrong.
It's tangible. It can hold it right there in your hand.
That's a fancy word to say on paper.
Here it is right here. This is how this man voted. This is how this woman voted.
There's no code. There's no logarithms. There's no electronic poll books. And it doesn't matter what the weather is. It doesn't matter if you have a water leak. It doesn't matter if you have internet. You can run your election with no problem.
That's right. I'm sorry, everybody. There's a water leak over here on this bathroom. Please step 12 feet to the left to fill out your ballots over here and turn them in at, instead of at room 110, we're going to move you across the hallway into room 111 so your feet don't get wet.
And that's it.
Done. Finished.
No problem. It doesn't matter if there's a blizzard. Doesn't matter what's going on.
I'm just wondering what was in that water at the facility that had the water leak that they felt they needed to close the building.
Toxic stuff in Andrews County.
Yeah. Or Flint, Michigan. What was in the water? It's just our elections need so much work.
But it's so simple to fix.
Yes, it is.
Why will our elected officials not do their job and fix it?
Well, I think money has a lot to do with that.
There's got to be money. To me, there should not be any money in elections, and there should be no private businesses involved in elections. That's wrong.
Right.
I mean, because to me, your county commissioners are tasked in Texas with their primary task. One of their primary functions is to choose the election system for their county. Mm-hmm. But they're not doing it. They're abdicating it to the EA, which is controlled and manipulated by the SOS, which is a huge bureaucracy accountable to no one.
Yeah.
Like what you were talking about at the federal level.
Yep.
Same thing's happening at the state level.
All over, multiple
states.
So
now it's happening at the county level. They're abdicating their responsibility. Now they got a bureaucracy called the election administrators that I don't really think we need those. Go back to the way we used to do it with the tax assessor and the county clerk working together on the elections.
Yeah.
But it's just so because they're abdicating it, but then the county commissioners are approving these contracts with a vendor. Really, there's only 2 in Texas. Mm-hmm. And they're spending hundreds of thousands of taxpayer money.
Yeah.
And then they said, well, we get a grant or whatever for the machines, but then they're paying maintenance contracts and then all this other office they have to have in order to run all these because they're complicated, and we never see the vendor.
Mm-mm. Or who's tied to them.
what I'm trying to get at is the county commissioners are appropriating money to these private entities that the public could perceive that vendor could benefit them. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
That's scary.
Yeah, it is.
Now, how could I, if I had any honor as an individual, put myself in that position? I would say, I'm not making such a decision, because if I vote for it and I lose or I win my race, people could say the vendor did it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think they all vote for the vendor. Always, 100% of the incumbents are for the vendor, for the electronic machines. I think that tells us everything we need to know. They're either scared or they're corrupt. So they either have no courage or they're corrupt.
Yeah.
And either one is bad.
Well, and it makes you wonder, like how they get corrupted too. Like, what are they doing? Who are they participating with? Where are they going? That's why, topics like Epstein Island are so interesting to me. Is like, was that a counter ops? Did we have that island set up so that we could entrap politicians to make them go down this road? Like, why has no one else been arrested from it? And people call this type of stuff conspiracy theory, but espionage during the Cold War, all of these different areas, espionage was one of the biggest things for warfare that was around. If you look at all of these different elected officials like Eric Swalwell and all of these people, they actively had spies in their campaigns. Mm-hmm. Dianne Feinstein, that's another one that you go in and look, and you have to start to wonder, where does the corruption come from? Who's involved, and why do they take the positions that they do? Like, why are we still allowing George Soros to sponsor candidates? He's not an American citizen. I would argue that anything that he's involved with is corrupt and evil, just because of where I see his money gone in the past decade. And then you look at his son and the stuff that he's into. Ugh, that's just awful. So the corruption.
They think that the people are stupid and they won't figure it out.
Yeah, and that you should eat bugs and everything. We Americans are not stupid. No. Americans across. I think that if you go next door and you talk to your neighbor, and you've got, let's see how many neighbors you got in a city block, you're going to have more in common with most people than the things that you have against them. And that's why I think that it's just absolutely crazy that these bureaucrats want to come in and they want to tell us what we have. Like, look at Anthony Fauci. I think that guy is probably one of the biggest people out there that is just a liar. Just lies through his teeth about any given thing that's there. I think now he's backpedaling because he's trying to save himself from, all the implications of the COVID injury vaccines. And then it no longer makes sense anymore. Like these bureaucrats, they tell us, oh, well, you need to think this way or you need to live this way because they think that we can't do it for ourselves. Well, we did it for ourselves. And we've been doing it this whole time without you involved. As a matter of fact, I think that most Americans could live their entire lives without government involvement and never need any help.
That's right. Yeah, I think maybe what happened is because we won the Cold War, all those people got bored. And so they started doing all the things they're doing against the American people. The intelligence agencies had nothing important to do.
So they turned on the Americans.
I don't know. I mean,
I can tell you they did. The FBI has. The FBI is on an all-out assault against American citizens. Everything that they're doing right now, utilizing the Patriot Act and all that, it needs to be completely overturned and destroyed because they are attacking Americans, me included.
But what do they benefit by doing that? I mean, I don't understand why that's. I think the average person is saying that doesn't sound right. Why would they do that?
It's a good question, but I can tell you right now that there are political prisoners in America from the Biden administration at the hands of Christopher Wray, Merrick Garland, and D.C. judges that are sitting in prison right now that have been there 3 years with no trial, no nothing, that regularly are beaten, are starved like myself, and poisoned while they're there. This is real. And our government, if we don't get a handle on it, the Constitution was not written for the government to go after American citizens. The Constitution was written for American citizens to have the power to stop their government from tyranny.
Yep.
And
that's where we are.
This is where we are. And I don't have any problem saying it. And, and they may try to come after me. They might try to, make a harsher sentence or whatever they're going to do to me. But we have to stand up to this because I can tell you right now that for a good part of the last 3 years, my life was ruined. And that only through my faith in Christ, my family, and the people that stuck around that believed in me, you being one of those, giving me the opportunity to speak and to tell, American families, like, this is coming for you next. I mean, did you buy a Bible in the last 3 years? Because you're an extremist today, right now, in the eyes of the FBI, you're an extremist because of the fact that you purchased a Bible. And, Christ warned us that we would, in fact, be persecuted in the end, that right shall be wrong and wrong shall be right. Well, it's on the doorstep.
Yeah, that's the way it appears right now.
That's everything. Down. Everything's upside down. And it's inside out. And it's painted a different color from what we recognize it because what's coming for us is socialism. What's coming for us is communism.
We've been socialists for a long time.
And we're just now seeing just how bad it can get. Look at inflation. Look at interest rates from banks. Like, why are big banks involved in everything that Biden and the rest of what the federal system does? Because it's all working together.
Yeah. It's a coordinated effort across multiple agencies, probably ran by very few people.
Yeah, because I can tell you right now, Joseph R. Biden is not in charge of the United States of America.
I don't think he has the capacity to figure out how to put all this together. But
well, yeah, and then you look at Dianne Feinstein just before she died, where her staffers are literally saying, "Just say I, just say I." I think that's a majority of how the government is being run right now. Is they're putting faces onto people, but those aren't really the ones that are pulling the strings. The just say I video should live in history of how wrong our politics have become over the last 3 years.
Well, so we need to get some new people,
yes,
new blood into our Congress,
yes,
and
continue that trend and every 8 years.
State legislators, and take our country back.
Yes,
but it's up to the individual.
Yes, it is.
That means they have to somebody. I have people that keep telling me, Rogers, I think people are waking up. I'm like, well, that's fine.
But they have to go vote when
you got to get up, and you got to stand up,
yep,
and you got to show up.
That's right.
And that's the key. And if everybody would just show up and vote, then they can't manipulate the machines.
That's right.
Or they can, but not as to the extent that
they're not going to be
suspect that they're doing.
Because there'll be too many people. They won't be able to overcome the numbers. If what do we have? 327 million. If 327 million people got up and voted on election day, they cannot manipulate that. That is too many. It is a too large orchestrated effort to do that. And it took them 3 days to overturn the last one. I'm thinking if it was a full 327 million people, they'd have even more problems. What are they going to do? Postpone it for 6 weeks so they can figure out what happened? It'll never work.
Well, the problem is they didn't let the Constitution work. That's the problem. When they didn't take Texas versus Pennsylvania, to me, that's the day the country died. Our republic basically disintegrated.
Yeah,
because that's the role of the
Supreme
Supreme
happened
Court.
November, not January 6th. It was in November.
Because the reason we have the Supreme Court is to resolve disputes between the states,
right?
Not to issue opinions. Mm-hmm. It was designed so we wouldn't invade each other, right? Mm-hmm. But when they didn't do that, they went backwards 200 years and said, okay, you're going to have to fight it out physically. And that's what we don't want.
Nope.
That's why I want paper, hand-marked, self-authenticated, tangible ballots, because I want ballots. They want bullets.
Yeah.
Because they know there's no way we could fight back.
And if we're fighting each other, then we're not watching what they're doing either.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest thing right now about why they want so many different people to disagree with each other and why there's such dissension and hate. Like, oh, you should hate this, like the never Trumper, or like all Democrats are bad. You look, there's a broad spectrum that doesn't make any sense. We need to stand together.
That's right.
We have to stand together because this is the United States of America.
It's about the people, not the parties.
Yes.
The parties are just a mechanism. Supposedly, the idea was that you have two basic concepts and people work within the one that they most identify with, so you can get competent people into office that can discuss these issues in an amicable and effective way to get to the best result for the people. Mm-hmm. But they've turned the parties into something different. And there's a role for the parties, but the people have to show up and participate in them.
Yes.
And the Democrat Party, if you believe in bigger government and that the people are not capable of making their own decisions, that's probably where you need to belong. If you're more for limited government and individualism, then you probably belong in the Republican Party, but you need to get in the one that you most identify with so you can push your agenda so that we can have a real debate at the national and state level. Right. And even at the local level.
And be open to ideas. Yes. As long as those ideas facilitate what the Constitution stands for, then we don't have any issue because the Constitution is still a living document. But I don't think the people have any issues, and the people are not divided. It's made up by the media that tells us that we're divided. Yes.
We're not. I talk to Democrats; they think the same way you do.
Yeah,
I do.
That's what I've been discovering along this campaign trail too. Like as I go up and I meet all these people, supposedly we're supposed to have this huge, great, big divide to where we're at each other's throats, and I just don't see it. I don't see it anywhere that I go, and it's one of the most. I will say that it's one of the most refreshing things. Now, that's not to say that you don't meet the occasional person that's just like, get off my porch. I don't support you and your ideas, but hey, this is Texas. Some of us got a backbone, but you know what I'm saying? There's not this big divide like everybody thinks there is. The media wants us at our throats, and right now I believe that major media is one of the largest enemies in the United States against the people, and I think that whenever that all gets found out, I think that there's going to be some harsh consequences for those that facilitated that divide, because we are stronger together. There is no question. If every single person just stood up for what was right,
that's it.
We have our country back. And it doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on. It doesn't matter who you think deserves it. Because I can tell you right now that no one person, no one president is going to fix the United States of America. No one congressman is going to fix all this. It's an effort that has to be done together. It has to be facilitated together. We have to stand together because there is only one name that I believe personally will fix this nation, and that's Jesus Christ. Yeah. That's the only person that I can truly say, okay, if everybody followed him, there would be a different country that's around. That's what I believe. If you don't believe that, that's great. But I will choose love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, and self-control as a model for what this nation needs to be over whatever the rest of this has been identified by the media. Because the direction that we're headed right now, this ain't it. But I think that the people are starting to stand together and realize my neighbor and I disagree with this. This is the way that we need to go. Me and this guy from this county over here, this is the way that we need to go. I'm a Republican and you're a Democrat, and we believe that this is the wrong way to do this, so we're going to move forward with this instead of being at each other's throats. And that's what America is to me too, is everybody standing together to achieve a common goal that benefits all of us, instead of these bureaucrats and these lobbyists and these politicians who want to get in here and tell you you're stupid and you don't know how to run your life, so we have to do it for you. That's not America.
But then they won't talk to the people once they get elected.
Absolutely not.
They vanish.
Well, that's just like my guy. He doesn't ever come home. He's never in West Texas.
I don't understand. I've been in Washington, D.C., and they can have it. It's just one big, huge
cesspool.
Low-income housing complex. It's not a very, and the humidity, it's hot, it's miserable, it's crowded.
But it is such a beautiful city, though, at the same time, too.
Yeah.
Like, you get there and you see what the founding fathers did and the amount of history that comes with that. You know, I've stood at the foot of the Washington Monument. I've stood at the place at the river that they believe that George Washington crossed over to defeat the British. I've stood at the base of the Lincoln Monument. I've stood at the steps of the Capitol protecting police officers on what was possibly one of the most influential historical days in history that we have ever known. And to see the conflict that has had to occur to make America what it is, the nation that is the greatest in the world. Why do so many nations hate America? Because of how successful we are and the right that we are free. But that freedom was desperately paid for in blood. It was savagely attempted to be taken, just like it is now. Everything that we have can be lost in an instant with poor leadership. And just like Washington, D.C., America is so beautiful, but it has a dark past that is absolutely influenced by decision-making that had to be overcome in order to achieve unity. And when you look at D.C., I see failure from not the people that were there, but by the ideologies that were placed in front of them to make it that way. And, you know, you go and you look at all of these different cities that have just been run by these absolutely worthless politicians. And that's where the worst cities in America are, is by politicians who don't care about the people, who don't invest the money.
They want big government policies instead of letting people have an incentive and let capitalism work.
Yes.
They want socialism, and it fails every time.
Yep. And imagine if we taught that in our schools. Imagine if we weren't so focused on Pythagorean theorem. You know, how many students today know how to take out a loan, know how to apply for a mortgage, know how to balance their checkbook, know how to file their taxes? You know, we're so interested in these, what do we have? These testing, this memorization of what a student is supposed to be, instead of allowing people to understand that you can greatly benefit from capitalism.
Yeah, you teach them the basics and teach them how to think. That's it. Let them go.
I'm working on a capitalism campaign right now where I need people to send donations in so that I can get this message out like I'm doing with you here today, but on a larger spectrum, so that if you identify with me, you can vote for me. And if you don't, vote against me, but go vote. That's the biggest thing that I want. If you like my policies, I will be more than happy to stand beside you and go and fight in Washington, D.C. If you don't, and you don't go vote, don't complain whenever you're not represented by somebody who you didn't believe in representing you because you didn't take the opportunity to get registered to vote, to go out there. If you don't vote, you can't complain.
Informed.
Yes. Research.
Learn about your elected officials.
Yes.
So you can make an informed decision, not just take for granted that what they tell you is the truth.
And I don't think that it's agreeable right now with the way that things go to just vote party line. You know, a lot of people I see that they talk to, they say, well, when I get my ballot, I just go all the way down Democrat or all the way down Republican just because that's the way my daddy did it. And that's how. Don't do that. Research them, because there are people who are imitating that they are a Republican, but they're actually a Democrat and have been for 30 years. But they switched into the Republican Party in order to make it into office, because right now, who is getting up and who's getting active? It's Republicans. You know, you're seeing this massive wave of Republicans that are coming in. So don't just vote party line.
We have that problem here in my county at the county level. I mean, most of our county elected officials are left-wing liberals, but they run as Republicans.
Yep. And it's this, sadly, this is the way that things are. And I think somewhere down the line, we've got to figure out a better system for that. To make sure
I have some ideas on how we could do that. I got shot down at the state, but I'll try it again. But I think that, you know, your precinct chairs ought to be able to vet anybody that runs for office.
Sure, absolutely.
And pass them through, because they know things that the voters know things about these people that could come out. It's not going to be that many that get stopped, but they know some, because they're their neighbors, right? Mm-hmm. So that would help get some of these subversives, keep them out.
Yeah. I think we just everybody just needs to start paying attention. You know, I feel like we were asleep at the wheel so long in our country.
Well, the problem is goes back to the money, right? Well, the big money is pushing these candidates, but they're not what you think they are. So they're beholden to that big money, because they can't run their own campaign like what you're doing. Right. They don't have that ability.
And I don't even hardly have the help, you know.
But I mean, you see what I'm saying? It's just because there's so much. So they hire the fancy consultants and the big money, and they can just roll over somebody that's trying to do a grassroots campaign like you're trying to do, and so they never get. But they don't know anything about the candidate. They just see the name.
Yeah, it's only name recognition a majority of the time for a vote.
But the voters aren't doing their job, and they're just voting for the one that has the biggest sign or has the prettiest picture on the sign, you know? So I just think what we're trying to do is educate the voter.
That's why I think there should be debate every single time.
Oh, yeah, they should be.
There should be 100%, because trust me, I would love to take on. I actually have a lot in common with one of the guys that I'm running.
Hey, we could invite him to debate. I could have a debate for all three of you down
there. There's four of us. Yeah. Chance Ferguson, Vance, or sorry, not Vance Boyd. Or yeah, Vance Boyd. Yeah. Myself and Jody Arrington.
Yeah, three.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, we could do a town hall or something with them.
Oh, I'd love to. I highly doubt that two of them will show up, but, you know, we'll see.
Well, that's all right.
I think it would be great to get an invite, but I think that at some level you have to have that accountability, because I know that there's voters that would show up that would have a lot of questions about me. I know that there's voters that want to know what Jody Arrington was thinking whenever he reauthorized the FBI to elicit FISA warrants against American people. You know, like why he's taking money from Covenant Health Systems, who required all of their employees to take COVID vaccines, and yet he says that every American should have the right to choose. You know, there's a lot of things that I feel like people would want to understand, like how come some of his money projects also have Democrats on the rolls that they're donating money to. You know, these are questions that we need answered. You know, there's a lot of stuff. And this is in every single county too. So if you're out there and you're watching and you say to yourself, well, I like my politician, you know, like here in Amarillo, Ronnie Jackson is an amazing candidate. I have thought that Ronnie was one of the best congressmen that has ever stepped foot on the floor since he got into office. And you helped greatly in getting him there as well. The respect that I have for that man is amazing. People in Amarillo right now can go start researching somebody in a grassroots area in a place that they disagree with and send that candidate money. Send it to them, because you can influence the election in that area, and it could be the one that's just right at your door. My district ends a couple of miles from here. You know, just on the other side of Happy, Texas is where my district begins and goes all the way in, up to Freona, into Abilene, Anton, all of these big counties. I've got 33 counties that I would have the privilege of representing. And I'm sure that somewhere along the line, there is a politician in one of those counties that needs to be out, that you're over here. And if you would help the grassroots candidate that's there, it would make an impact on the way that America is run. Because whenever you see what's going on in some of these undercut places, whenever you see what kind of people are in power there, it's disgusting.
Yep.
What they're doing.
Yeah.
And if you don't step outside of your range, your research, and go start looking, then I feel like we're, going to be completely misled by who we have coming into certain areas. And I think that's why if you're content with where your area is at, reach out and go help, because I can promise on the other side of the party, they are definitely trying to do it. Look at how much money George Soros throws at candidates who are vile, evil men and women. And, if they're willing to do it, we've got to be willing to step up for our neighbors and say, you know what, we're going to help you get in. Yeah.
It's war.
It is. Information war.
Unfortunately, we're fighting it on two fronts. We've got the Democrat Party, and they're infiltrating the Republican Party.
Yep. Rhinos.
And then the federal government is after the people, the producers.
I've been fighting all three of them for the last 3.5 years. It'd just be nice to be able to do it with more people behind my back.
And in some cases, we're fighting the Republican Party because they're not stepping up. There's really no leadership in the Republican
it's hard
Party.
with Rona McDaniel at the head.
Yeah. Well, and even in across the nation, I just don't see very few competent people that are doing what they need to do. So it's all over. It's evil that we're really fighting.
Yeah, principality. It's not people.
Yeah, it's really evil. I think they blinded a lot of these people, and we just have to do the right thing and try to wake them up and get them to get up and then to stand up and then to show up.
Right.
That's what we need to do.
Absolutely.
And you're doing your thing in CD19.
CD19.
What's your web address?
It's my website is ryanzink.vote. I'm also very active on Twitter, and that's Ryan Z for Congress. Well, I guess it's called X now. So my X handle is Ryan Z for Congress. That's RyanZink.vote. And then there's no C and no E. I am not Ryan Zinke from Montana. I never was good at baseball, so props to that on him, but I think he's probably one of the other ones that we should be trying to help get out right now. So two completely different philosophies on what it means to be a Republican between Ryan Zinke and Ryan Zink. Outside of that, all of my contact information is on that website. I'm very active on X. I'm in spaces all the time. I talk to people. I'm door to door. If you're in my area, in my district, in one of my 33 counties, I would love to come out and speak to you. If you want to set up a meet and greet, I'm absolutely down. I would love to meet anyone and everyone, particularly pastors of churches, and other people that want to sit down and want to get to know the real me, because I'm not afraid to talk.
Sounds good. So go to ryanzink.vote and donate a little money so this guy can get his message out and
absolutely
have a fighting chance against the big PACs and the people that actually don't agree with you.
Yes, and donate to the candidates that you like, because trust
always
me,
donate directly to the candidate. And do not give to any of these groups that generally are not what they purport to be.
Yes, they either have a WinRed or an antidote, and donate to one of those two directly to the person, not to the party, because the party distributes money unequally to people who go along with whatever agenda they want. And grassroots candidates like myself, you go to their website, like mine, ryanzink.vote. There's a donate button. It takes you directly to my WinRed account. The money goes directly in. It's filed by the FEC. It's 100% transparent so that you can see where the money went, how it was spent, and you can actually tell who sent it whenever it's theirs. Because I'm not a lobbyist. I'm not taking money from healthcare groups, from COVID, from any of those other, things. I'm grassroots. I want donations from people so that I can make a difference in your life. I don't want an insurance company coming donating to me and saying, well, this is what we'd like you to change on policy for us, so it makes it easier for us to do this. I disagree with that completely. So that's one of the things. Donate to the candidate.
And you can always donate to Potter County GOP, but they're a good party, but not your state or federal. That's what you don't want. Your local party is where all the work is done by the actual real
people that are in the area
and the precinct chairs and the women's groups. The grassroots are at the local party level.
Yes.
And most people don't even know that the local party exists. In most communities, they don't know.
And we actually have a lot of chairs in the state of Texas that are vacant because people don't even know that they can run for them and become involved.
We had it. I helped get a lot of chairs in there, but then because of the leadership issues in the state, a lot of people have just gotten frustrated, and it's not worth it. I mean, it's a very frustrating job.
Yes.
Number one. And if they don't get any backup, I have some advantage that this stuff kind of comes natural for me, so it's kind of fun. It's like a hobby. But a lot of people aren't that way, and they don't understand all the rules and regulations we have to deal with, and there's a lot to it, running a primary, all kinds of stuff. There's a lot to being a county chair. But if anybody out there that sees this that wants to become a precinct chair or a county chair or wants to know how that works, join our WeThePeopleTownSquare.com platform, and we're going to be putting some courses on there to show you how you can get involved in your local party, how all that works, and why it's important. If you just show up there, you can change the world.
Yes.
And it doesn't take much. So you can go to your precinct meetings, your county convention, your state convention, and that's where the platform's developed and the legislative priorities are concerned, and you can get to know your legislators and push your ideas forward, and we can save and keep Texas from going the way of California. But if we don't, Texas is poised to head straight toward the direction of California.
Yeah, everybody's moving here. That these corrupt officials have made it to where nobody can afford to live in these outside states. And what do? They come here to where everything is stable. It's normal. We have, good property value. I talked to a guy that moved to Lubbock, I guess about 2 weeks ago. He sold his 2-bedroom, 1-bath house on 1/8 of an acre for like $1.1 million and moved here. Yes, in California, and moved here.
That'd be a $60,000.
And it's a 60, 75,000, maybe 100,000 with Bidenomics playing into it. But it's incredible how unrealistic California and these other states have become with poor leadership. And and you can come to Texas, just don't California or Texas. That's the biggest thing that I see. We got so many people living here.
Most of the people I've talked to that come in from Colorado, a lot of people moving here from Colorado and California, less from California than Colorado, I think. But they're more conservative than the people that are here are.
Oh, yeah.
People think, people out here are so conservative. I think the voters are, but our elected officials are not.
Yeah.
And
I've seen a mix in between. I don't know. I've seen some.
There's some good ones.
Some really conservative, and then I've met some people that I was like, you need to keep driving.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
But I agree though. Well, some of our elected officials need a wake up call too.
Yeah.
And that's why we got to vote, so we can get them out.
Well, they need to represent the people, not rule them. And when they cease doing that, it's time to replace them. So, I don't I don't have any problem getting new blood into the herd.
I want to see it. I want to see it overturned, man. I just this ain't it. We've got to get people in that are doing it, and I hope that's me. But as long as the vote has spoken and it's true and it's accurate, then that's the representation.
That's it. If the people want socialism, communism, that's what they should get. But we need it transparent.
Absolutely.
Transparency in everything. That's all we ask. Mm-hmm. All right, Ryan. Well, we appreciate you coming here today and visiting with us, and want to thank you for having the courage to throw your hat in the ring and stand up for the real American people.
Yep.
In CD19.
I hope I get the opportunity to.
Good luck on the campaign trail.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.